Hello, friends. My recent visit to Athens during the process of having my book Harmoscopuses republished proved quite revealing. I had not walked its center for 20 whole years. The 3-kilometer stroll between the columns of Olympian Zeus and my publishers, near the field of Ares, sufficed for me to study the human imprint anew, as compared to what I remembered as a younger man in the 90s. On my way, I stood before and truly relished the steadfast value of our civilization as reflected by the majestic facades of the Academy and the University of Athens, whose grandeur and incomparable beauty should guide every public architectural and artistic expression, with the heroic forms of Apollo and Athena perched on Ionic columns, personifying the composure and spirit that every human being ought to strive for. However, I was not to chance upon any such human semblances during my promenade. Turning at the avenue which led to the publishers, I encountered a quagmire of broken-down people and an outlandish panspermia of non-European races, which in their sum would require new words to express horridness. Two-legged entities of no certain identity, who meshed in harmony with the toxic graffiti, the charred buildings, the broken pavements from which chronic rioters supply themselves with ammo against the police now and then, and the Afro-Asiatic idioms reverberating throughout the surreal environment. I could not help but think that this was the multicultural world that would produce the man of the future, as envisioned by Austrian diplomat Heinrich von Gutenhove-Kalergi in his 1923 book Pan-Europa. I asked myself what kind of demented person would ever want to normalize such ugliness by blotting out the beautiful ethnic tapestry and composure of our indigenous European racial identities. At some point, I ventured into the courtyard of the Polytechnic University of Athens to witness from up close the nursery of the deep state that for the past 40 years has ideologically staffed the upper education system of the country, as well as the brains of most members of the Greek parliament nowadays. Stray dogs and some tattooed individuals of dubious gender that were wandering lethargically in the campus grounds tied in with a whole blight in the environment. There have been times when I have heard people saying that Western civilization is gasping for its last breath under the tyranny of the draconian serpents that dominate the economic and political life of Europe and the US. I thought that if this indeed is the case, then the leaning bronze head monument to commemorate the alleged student struggle to overturn the dictatorship at the Polytechnic University in 1974 could very well be the head of the Greek-based snake. I stressed alleged uprising because the junta government had already announced parliamentary elections and the establishment of a parliamentary republic prior to the student uprising, which had obviously been staged by the same forces that have today brought Greece to its knees, culturally and economically. It is a real irony that the oppressed youth of the time who had organized the student revolt against the junta was not only to establish later a career in the corrupt governments that followed and destroyed the Greek economy, but as time passed, more and more of them were to face charges of corruption and mismanagement of government funds. It was not too difficult, therefore, for my mind's eye to envision an infinite serpentine length with scales extending under the gigantic head that looked as if it had just broken through the pavement, through the concrete, to gloat over the riotous chaos its presence wreaks every 17th of November to commemorate this supposed uprising, when for no reason whatsoever, hordes of anarchists wreak havoc in the area with homemade incendiary bombs to commemorate what? Nothing. I later found out that the model for the face of the bronze head was that of a Marxist professor by the name of Nikos Zvoronos. It was strategically placed by his ideological cronies beside a stone slab which listed the names of the university students who had fallen during the resistance in the Second World War. I stress strategically placed because its purpose was to evoke emotions, sentimental emotions amongst the naive, gullible public who do not bother to read history or the worn-out date on the slab of stone, having been made to think that those names are the names of the students run over by the junta tank that broke down the gate during the November 17 demonstration. Never mind that not one person was ever killed or attacked in the university campus. With all this in mind, looking at its blank, reptile-like eyes, I thought that if a snake bite victim writhed in pain before it died, the dilapidation of the university compound and the circumstances unraveling around the bronze head, the bleakness, the drug trafficking, and the chronic violence that takes place, ascertained the snake's venomous presence. The absurdity of it all made me wonder what kind of people would embrace such narrative as to tolerate so much toxicity in its environment and culture. And then I remembered the words of an old man who once said to me, "Stay away from large cities, son. They destroy people." When I asked him why he thought so, he replied, "Large cities are prisons, where, without their knowing, the residents are both the inmates and the guards." And friends, after that, I dare say that we should all heed the wise elderly. And as an old Greek tenet goes, if you have no old person, buy yourself one. And since I am myself entering the gates of old age, here I give vent to all that I see for young people to learn from. Through my description of my last visit to the center of the Greek capital, I hope to raise an awareness of what is in store for the Western world if we do not readdress our values that would salvage what life is worth living for, that is to say, eros, and a civilization that would secure its presence. And since the eros of the West has always been dictated by the mindset of its birthplace, its classical birthplace, Greece, I suggest that we deal with the issues that are destroying our Western identities through Greece's archaic world view, which inspired the very Renaissance itself. When I returned to my island home of Crete after this visit, no sooner had I set foot on the island, where Europa and Zeus once gave birth to Western civilization, than I was visited by the muse of traditional Cretan rhyme and meter. The influence of the muse was triggered by an old scavenger's words that had reached my ear at the turn of the century and which now made much more sense after my visit to Athens. Initially, I wrote it in Greek, and here I would like to present it to you in English. It was the year 2000 when I heard this old man shout behind his junk-filled cart that he would always wheel about. While scavenging for articles with which he would sustain a scant existence in a world from which he would abstain. "You people of my race, take heed. Large cities such as this empower the snake that hypnotizes people with its hiss. Your mobile screens immobilize the natural course of things, and what will surely root throughout is all that evil brings. As redolent of amber coal of fire dying out, he sought anew to kindle wood, so younger flames might sprout. But ash would stifle all his rage and all the world's decay, an impetus impossible for one to keep at bay. The years have passed, but credence bring to all that he foretold, and now his words through me resound with wishes to unfold. Sons of Europe and the West, I send you an appeal from Europe's birthplace, island Crete, so that you will not kneel. May hands in circles interlace, anon, so you may dance, to all nine muses reinstate, and culture re-enhance. O people of my race and breed, may you the serpent kill, and re-establish Delphi and Apollo's golden skill. And once the odious head is crushed, and you're rid of its scourge, as killers of draconian blight, may you your lands repurge. When you have finally cleansed yourselves of all the noxious slime, may your enlightened sights be set on all that is sublime. People of my blood, may you our language bring to mind, so that barbaric thoughts may to barbarians be confined. The discus thrower be the form to guide misguided youth. This era's dark monstrosity be smitten by its truth. Where fertile seeds do not take root for anything to grow, and where the flower-suckling bees by all their means forego, it is a place of vapid beings, whose substance is condemned, for those who burden earth with waste of what they buy and spend. One sees it blandly manifest throughout one's toxic mien, on bodies stained and marked as such that manliness demean. And by extension of such blight, the female is forlorn, when nature is so out of reach, all eros is unborn. And now to the imperative, allow me to suggest the course of action you should take to save the Grecian West. Those multicultural cities flee and seek to reunite. Establish farms and villages, in nature seek the light. Have children to rejuvenate your great ancestral stock. Blackwashing your identity is something you must block. To cross a donkey with a horse creates the sterile mule, and normalizing ugliness only behooves the fool. Apply Spartan discipline, Lycurgus laws uphold, to educate your children with, to toughen bodies' mold. The word for leisure be your guide. In Greek, the word is school. Thus, only after work and toil should one sit on a stool. You people of my race take heed, his words do still resound. The wise old smitten scavenger in me a herald found. You people of my race take heed of my Hellenic cry, our culture save from Brussels' snake, or we shall surely die. Thank you for listening.